Once upon a time, nestled in a lush valley surrounded by towering mountains, there was a humble village called Rosewood. The villagers led simple lives, tending to their crops and livestock, and enjoying the bounty that nature provided. Among them was a kind-hearted woman named Lila, known for her generous spirit and her love for the enchanted forest that bordered their village. Lila spent her days exploring the wonders of the forest, foraging for wild berries, mushrooms, and herbs to share with her neighbors. She had an uncanny ability to find the most delicious fruits, even in the depths of winter when the trees were bare. The villagers marveled at her skill and eagerly awaited her return from each expedition, hoping to sample the delights she brought back. One particularly warm summer day, Lila ventured deep into the heart of the forest, following a winding path she had never taken before. As she walked, the trees seemed to whisper secrets, and the air hummed with a strange energy. Suddenly, she stumbled upon a hidden grove filled with the most magnificent fruit trees she had ever seen. Their branches were laden with ripe, juicy fruits in every color of the rainbow: crimson apples, golden pears, violet plums, and emerald limes. The aroma was intoxicating, and Lila could not resist plucking a plump cherry from a low-hanging branch. As she bit into the fruit, an explosion of flavor danced on her tongue. It was the sweetest, most delicious thing she had ever tasted. Lila filled her basket to the brim with the wondrous fruits, eager to share her discovery with the villagers. She hurried back to Rosewood, her heart brimming with excitement. Upon her return, the villagers gathered around, marveling at the strange and beautiful fruits Lila had brought. They sampled the bounty, and soon the air was filled with exclamations of delight. The fruits were unlike anything they had ever tasted, each one more exquisite than the last. The villagers begged Lila to show them the way to the enchanted grove, but she hesitated, remembering the eerie whispers of the trees and the strange energy that had permeated the air. That night, as Lila slept, she was visited by a dream. In it, 3 radiant fairies appeared before her, their wings shimmering with iridescent light. They warned her of the dangers lurking within the enchanted grove, cautioning that the fruits were not meant for mortal consumption. The fairies revealed that the trees were the creation of a powerful sorcerer who had long ago been banished from the land. The fruits were imbued with his magic, and those who ate them would fall under his spell, becoming enslaved to his will. Lila awoke with a start, her heart pounding. She knew she had to warn the villagers of the danger, but when she rushed to the village square, she found them already preparing to journey into the forest, baskets in hand. They were determined to find the enchanted grove and claim its bounty for themselves. Despite Lila's pleas, the villagers would not be dissuaded. They marched into the forest, following the path Lila had taken the day before. As they walked, a thick mist began to rise from the ground, obscuring their vision. The trees seemed to close in around them, their branches reaching out like grasping hands. Finally, they reached the enchanted grove, but it was not as Lila remembered. The once vibrant fruits had turned black and rotten, and the air was heavy with the stench of decay. The villagers recoiled in horror, but it was too late. The sorcerer appeared before them, his eyes glinting with malice. He had lured them to the grove, using the fruits as bait, and now they were trapped in his domain. Lila, who had followed the villagers at a distance, watched in dismay as her friends and neighbors fell under the sorcerer's thrall. One by one, they succumbed to his power, their eyes glazing over as they mindlessly plucked the rotten fruits from the trees and brought them to their lips. Desperate to save her village, Lila called out to the fairies from her dream, begging for their help. In a flash of blinding light, they appeared before her, their faces etched with sorrow. They told Lila that the only way to break the sorcerer's spell was to destroy the source of his power, a gnarled, ancient tree that stood at the center of the grove. Lila knew what she had to do. She pushed past the entranced villagers and made her way to the ancient tree. As she approached, the sorcerer appeared before her, his face twisted with rage. He unleashed a barrage of spells, but Lila was too quick. She dodged his attacks and, with a mighty swing of her axe, struck the tree at its base. The sorcerer let out a howl of agony as the tree splintered and cracked. A blinding light erupted from its core, engulfing the grove in a searing white radiance. When the light faded, the sorcerer was gone, and the villagers were blinking in confusion, the spell broken at last. Lila led her friends and neighbors out of the forest, back to the safety of Rosewood. The enchanted grove had vanished, as if it had never existed. From that day forward, the villagers were more cautious about venturing into the depths of the forest, heeding Lila's warnings about the dangers that lurked within. As for Lila, she continued to explore the wonders of nature, but now with a newfound respect for its mysteries. She knew that there were some secrets best left undisturbed, and some fruits not meant for mortal lips. And though she never again found anything quite as wondrous as the enchanted grove, she cherished the simple beauty of the world around her, and the love of her village that she had fought so hard to protect. Years passed, and Lila grew old, but she never forgot the lessons she had learned in the enchanted grove. She passed on her wisdom to her children and grandchildren, teaching them to respect the power of nature and to be wary of promises that seemed too good to be true. And so, the legend of the enchanted grove lived on, whispered around the hearths of Rosewood on cold winter nights. Some said that the grove still existed, hidden deep within the forest, waiting for another unsuspecting traveler to stumble upon its delights. But Lila knew better. She knew that true happiness lay not in the pursuit of magical fruits, but in the simple joys of a life well lived, surrounded by the people she loved. As Lila took her final breaths, she smiled, content in the knowledge that she had lived a good life. She had faced darkness and emerged victorious, guided by the light of her own brave heart. And though she would soon leave the world behind, she knew that her legacy would endure, carried on by the generations who followed in her footsteps. And so, the story of Lila and the enchanted grove passed into legend, a reminder to all who heard it that the greatest magic of all lies within ourselves, the courage to stand up for what is right, the wisdom to know when to walk away, and the love that binds us to one another, now and forever. In the years that followed, the villagers of Rosewood continued to thrive, guided by the principles Lila had taught them. They tended to their crops and livestock with diligence and care, and they looked out for one another, knowing that their strength lay in their unity. The children of the village grew up hearing the tale of Lila and the enchanted grove, and they marveled at her bravery and wit. They played in the sun-dappled clearings of the forest, but they never ventured too deep, remembering the warnings of their elders. As time passed, the village grew and prospered, and its fame spread throughout the land. Travelers came from far and wide to sample the fruits of Rosewood's orchards, which were said to be the sweetest and most flavorful in all the realm. The villagers welcomed them with open arms, sharing their bounty and their stories, and sending them on their way with full bellies and happy hearts. But even as Rosewood flourished, there were those who whispered of the enchanted grove, claiming that it still existed somewhere in the depths of the forest. Some said that they had seen it in their dreams, a shimmering oasis of delights that called to them in the night. One young man, a descendant of Lila herself, became obsessed with the idea of finding the grove. He spent long hours in the forest, searching for any sign of its existence. His family and friends begged him to give up his foolish quest, but he would not be dissuaded. Finally, after months of fruitless searching, the young man stumbled upon a hidden path, overgrown with thorns and brambles. He pushed his way through, ignoring the scratches and cuts that covered his skin, until he emerged into a clearing that took his breath away. Before him stood the enchanted grove, just as Lila had described it all those years ago. The trees were laden with fruits of every color and size, and the air was thick with the scent of ripeness and decay. The young man's heart raced with excitement as he reached out to pluck a fruit from the nearest branch. But as his fingers closed around the fruit, he heard a voice that made his blood run cold. It was the voice of the sorcerer, whispering in his ear, urging him to take a bite and surrender to the grove's enchantment. The young man hesitated, remembering the stories he had heard as a child. He knew the dangers that lurked within the grove, and he knew that he should turn back before it was too late. But the sorcerer's voice was insistent, promising power and pleasure beyond his wildest dreams. The young man's resolve wavered, and he brought the fruit to his lips, ready to taste its forbidden sweetness. Just then, a blinding light filled the clearing, and the fairies appeared before him, their faces stern and unyielding. They reminded him of the sacrifice Lila had made to save her village, and they urged him to honor her legacy by resisting the sorcerer's temptation. The young man's heart swelled with pride and love for his ancestor, and he knew what he had to do. With a mighty effort, he hurled the fruit to the ground and turned his back on the enchanted grove, ready to face whatever lay ahead. As he emerged from the forest, the young man was greeted by the relieved faces of his family and friends. They embraced him, tears streaming down their faces, and listened in awe as he recounted his tale. From that day forward, the young man became a leader among his people, guiding them with the wisdom and courage he had learned from Lila's example. He taught them to cherish the simple joys of life, to work hard and love deeply, and to always be vigilant against the temptations that lurked in the shadows. And so, the legacy of Lila and the Enchanted Grove lived on, a testament to the enduring power of love, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bonds of community. The villagers of Rosewood continued to thrive, secure in the knowledge that they had everything they needed right there in their little corner of the world, and that no magical fruit could ever compare to the sweetness of a life well lived. As the years turned to decades and the decades to centuries, the story of Lila and the Enchanted Grove passed into legend, a beloved tale told around the hearths of Rosewood on long winter nights. And though the world around them changed and grew, the villagers held fast to the values that had sustained them for generations, guided by the wisdom of their ancestors and the love that bound them together as one. For they knew that the true magic of life lay not in the pursuit of power or pleasure, but in the simple joys of family, friendship, and community. And as long as they had each other, they knew that they could weather any storm, face any challenge, and emerge stronger and more united than ever before. And so, the village of Rosewood endured, a shining beacon of hope and resilience in a world that often seemed dark and uncertain. And through the ages, the legend of Lila and the Enchanted Grove continued to inspire and uplift, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always a light to guide us home.